Good morning, Gators. So I, Mr. Bishop, am in the classroom here today. Just like we would on any other Monday, we are going to be reviewing and marking your knowledge check. So right now, please take out your knowledge check, make sure you have it in front of you, as well as a pen or something to mark it with. The first three questions we're gonna go through, I've kind of already done them on paper. My dot cam, the sound for it wasn't working this morning, so I've already kind of done the questions. I'll kind of scan over it with my phone here to show you what I expected of you and to show you the answers. And then for the last three questions that kind of involve a little bit more explanation, I'm going to do those on the board with you. So please have that knowledge check out, and away we go. So question one asked us 7 over 12 minus a 5 over 12. So it should look something like this. So if we have 7 over 12 minus 5 over 12, that now becomes 2 over 12. And why that is, if you look back and you have your 7 minus 5 is 2, and we carried our denominator of 12 over, we have 2 out of 12. So if you had 2 out of 12, give yourself a half mark for that. And where your full mark comes from is going to your lowest terms. So we have 2 out of 12 becomes 1/6. And why that is because we can divide the 2 by 2, and we can also divide the 12 by 2. Becomes your new fraction of 1 over 6. So to get your full marks, always go into your lowest terms. So next, B. We have 5 out of 6 minus 2 out of 6. Once again, your denominators are the same. So you don't have to do anything to your denominator. You already have a lowest common denominator. So we have 5 out of 6 minus a 2 out of 6 equals 3 out of 6. Because the 5 subtract 2 equals 3. We carried over our denominator because they're already the same. So there's your half a mark if you have 3/6. Where you get your full mark is that we notice, oh, what number can go into both the top and into the bottom? Well, yes, there is a number, and that number was 3. So to reduce this to your lowest terms, we could go 3 divided by 3, and 6 divided by 3 equals 1 over 2, which is a half. So there's your second mark. Your third mark in number 1, we have 3 out of 10 minus, subtract a 1/10 equals 2/10. Where that came from, once again, our denominator is already the same. 3 minus 1 is 2 over 10. There's a half mark if you do not reduce it. So 2 out of 10 gives you a half of a mark. 2 divided by 2 and 10 divided by 2, your lowest fraction that you could make with those numbers is 1/5. And moving down to D, we have 2 out of 3 minus a 1 out of 3 equals 1/3. Where that comes from, our 3 is already a common denominator, so we can slide that over. 2 minus 1 equals 1. Answer is 1/3. So there's a view of that entire page again. I'll leave that there for a sec. If you want to pause that on your screens, you can go through it there on your own again if you would like. So that total on that page, give yourself a mark out of 4. Flipping through. Number 2. You had 4 to 6 minus, subtract a 3 out of 8. A little bit different in these questions. The first thing you have to do is to find your lowest common denominator. And to do that, you need to find a number that both of these will go into. So factors of 6, we go 6, 12, 18, 24. Pause there. We went 8, 16, 24. We then found that 24 is our lowest common denominator for these two fractions. So that being said, we write our new fraction down that's going to be out of 24. And then just like you guys have done when you're adding fractions, we take a look and we say, okay, well, what did we have to do to get from a 6 to a 24? Well, we times it by 1, 2, 3, 4. So 6 times 4 was 24. Therefore, we have to times the top also by 4, because what you do to the bottom, make sure you do to the top. And over on the other side, to get to 24, we went 8 times 1, 2, 3, gave us 24. So whatever we do to the bottom, we do to the top. There's where we get these new numbers. 4 times 4 was 16, and 3 times 3 was 9. So now with your new fraction that we have that common denominator, we can slide that over, and then 16 minus 9 is 7. 7 out of 24 is your answer. Moving down to B. We have 5 out of 6, subtract a 5 out of 9. So once again, we don't have a common denominator yet. That is what we have to find. So we go 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 9, 18, 27, 36. There is our new common denominator. So with that, to get from 6 to 36, we multiplied by 6. To get to 9 to 36, we multiplied by 4. So do whatever you did to the bottom to the top, times it by 6, we're going to times the 5 by 6, times this by 4, so we're going to times the 5 by 4. There's where we get our new fractions. So the 5 times 6 is 30, the 5 times 4 is 20. Now that we have our new fractions, we have common denominators. We can slide over that denominator, so 36 slides over here. 30 minus 20 equals 10. 10 over 36 will get you half a mark. Where that full mark comes from, we notice that, a 2 can go into both 10 and into 36. So my new fraction is going to be 10 divided by 2 is 5. 36 divided by 2 is 18. Your final mark is 5 over 18. So where you're getting your marks from on this page is I'm going to give you 1 mark if you have shown your work. So all this stuff right here is 1 mark. Your second mark per question comes from this, your answer right there. So in 2A, I'd have 1, 2, 3, 4 marks right there. I'll leave that there for a sec if you want to pause that page and take a look over it. To C and D. So doing the same thing here, same method to find our common denominator. We took our 4 and a 6 and we found that our common denominator there is 12. So look at our new fractions are out of 12. We have, to get to 12, we have to times the bottom by 3, so times the top by 3. We have to times the 6 by 2 to get to 12, so now times the top by 2. Your new fractions become 3 times 3 up here is where we got the 9 from. 1 times 2 up here is where we got the 2 from. Now that we have a common denominator being 12, 9 subtract 2 is 7. Carry over your 12. First answer is 7 over 12. So 1 mark for all of your work, second mark for your answer. D, we have 2 and 6 as our denominators. Find something that's common between those two. So right now I'm thinking that, a 2 can go into 6, so I count up 2, 4, 6. Our lowest common denominator is 6. To get to that 6, we went 2 times 3 was 6. Do the same thing at the top. 3 times 3 is 9. Over here, did we have to do anything? No, did not have to do anything to this fraction, 5 out of 6, so it remains the same. We have our common denominator. 9 subtract 5 is 4. Denominator slides over as 6. There's a half a mark if you did not reduce it, and this is what you left as your fraction. But you can reduce this because 2 can be divided into 4 and into 6. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Your final answer is 2/3. So once again, 1 mark for the work, 1 mark for the answer. I'll leave that there for a second if you would like to pause and go over that again. So your total in number 2 should be out of 8. So number 1 was out of 4, number 2 was out of 8. Question number 3. So we did these ones a little bit differently because they are working with numbers where this trick kind of worked and it gave me their lowest common denominator. So the trick here was that, and you'll notice as I go on, is I just multiplied this number by this number over here, and I took this number and I multiplied it by this denominator over here, because therefore they're factors of each other. So I went 5 times 4 got me to 20, and 4 times 5 got me to 20. So there's your lowest common denominator already. We know it's going to be out of 20. So what I have to do to the bottom here, I times it by 4, I have to do the top. 4 times 4 is 16. 1 times 5 is 5. We have our lowest common denominator. 16 minus 5 is 11. slide over your denominator of 20. So 11 out of 20. Going over to B. Sorry, that is 2 marks. So 1 mark for showing your work, 1 mark for your answer. And we didn't have to reduce this to lowest common terms because it's already in its lowest common terms. We can't reduce that anymore. If I divided this 20 by 2 to get something smaller, I couldn't divide the top by 2 as well. So it's already as low as it goes. B, we have, starting with 9 over 10, subtract a 2 over 3. So we use that trick again. We take this number over here and we multiply the 10 by 3. We take this number over here and we multiply this side by 10. So we kind of flipped them. So I go 10 multiplied by 3 to get 30, 3 multiplied by 10 to get 30. We knew we could do that because we got the same denominator. So therefore, do whatever you did to the bottom to the top. 9 times 3 was 27. 2 times 10 was 20. We have our new fraction set up where we are allowed to now subtract. 27 minus 20 is 7. Keep our denominator the same as 30. So 1 mark for your work, 1 mark for your answer. C, we have 7 over 4, subtract an 8 over 5. So therefore, I'm going to take the 4 times it by 5 to get 20, 5 times 4 to get 20. We knew we could do that because we got the same denominator. Now do the same thing to the top. 7 times 5 is 35. 8 times 4 is 32. 35 over 20, subtract 32 over 20. Slide our denominator over, subtract the top numerators. 35 minus 32 is 3 out of 20. And I cannot go any lower than that. So there is what question 3 looks like so far. You should have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 marks so far. 1 for your work, 1 for your answer. Flipping over. I have my last question in 3. So 5 over 3 subtract 9 over 8. Notice that if I multiply this number by this side, 3 times 8 I get 24. And if I multiply this number by this side, 8 times 3 I get 24. So that works. We can use our denominator as 24. And to get to 24, I times the bottom by 8, so I can do that to the top. 5 times 8 is 40. 9 times 3 is 27. Slide over your denominator, subtract your numerators. 40 minus 27 is 13 over 24. There again is what that looks like. Your total in number 3 should be out of 8. Okay.